talking about one of Drake's affiliates, the person who actually brought in Drake into the hip hop game. Yeah. We're going to be talking about Weezy F Baby. Mike, so when I was texting with you about different topics for the podcast, I think initially we were talking about that new Benny the Butcher and Lil Wayne song, yeah. Big Bro, and then you started talking to me and you were like, "Yo, we should probably talk about Wayne's feature run." Yeah. So just talk to me wherever you want to go. I'll follow your lead. Talk to me about Wayne's run and however you want to talk about it.
Well, I think we've touched on this on other podcasts too, where it's like, you can't deny the overall run that Wayne had from, let's say 06 to 2011, from when Drake took the torch. And that's albums, that's commercial relevance, everything. Wayne was on top of the game. I think, you could argue that it really peaked somewhere between 2008 and 2010. But after that point, when, the new class of rappers are coming in, Wayne's albums aren't necessarily hitting the same. What he chose to do within this time period is go back to what he does best, and that's just to fucking rap. So, we were just talking about Cole and what he's been doing on a feature run for probably, let's say, for 4 years.
Cole? Yeah, I was going to say
right?
4 or 5,
like 4 years, right? Yeah. Like, he really put his foot in fucking everything. Wayne's been doing that for...
No. I was going to wait for it to see how long, with the number you're going to throw for how long Wayne's been doing it.
Wayne's been doing that. It's over 10 years at this point.
It's been a fucking minute.
And it's like everything ranging from a feature on a Drake record or a feature on a Currency record, a fucking Benny record. But wherever you see him and he's giving that pocket of 16 to 40 bars to just rap, just stand clear. And that's where he's been at. When you see Wayne on a record, talk about that spirit of competition, the guy who still cares about rapping. This guy, he doesn't... He's been in this game since 1997.
Since he was like 12.
Right? He doesn't need to give a shit about this. He's Lil Wayne. He can eat off of his fucking royalties at this point. He can eat off of his name. But he loves to rap. And that's why when I heard this, obviously it's over an Alchemist beat. It's next to one of the better rappers in today's generation. He knew he had to come with it. And he ate.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's whenever you see an artist featuring Lil Wayne, it's kind of an expectation going into the song that like Wayne's gonna kill it, but we still want to hear it. So he still has that like gravity where it's like we know he's gonna kill it, but we still want to hear him. We want to see how in shape he is.
He's still as creative as ever. You hear the scheme he rapped with on this. He kept the dog theme the entire verse through, and he fucking smoked that. And Benny did his thing too. Benny said, you're not gonna J. Cole me this time. So Benny put up a good effort, but Wayne really just showed why he's the level of rapper that he is.
Yeah. How do we feel about a Wayne project? Because he just came out with the... You told me about it, and then you told me about it when we did the Nas... Yeah, we did the Nas episode reviewing King's Disease 3. Go check it out. And then you're like, he's dropping a project soon, The Fix Before 6, and I was like, oh shit, I never heard of it. And then he dropped it later that week. But how do we feel about the Carter 6, which is presumably the next project official project he's gonna drop? Like, how do we feel about a Wayne project?
I'm gonna listen. I don't have an expectation really. I'm gonna listen.
Right.
Maybe I'll find something I like. Maybe I won't. But
he still gets that respect from people. But you're gonna check it out. 100%.
No, you got it.
Yeah.
It's at this point, and it's crazy because he's what, 41. He's a legacy act. He's a legend. So, you have to give it that respect where it's like, and especially the work he's been putting in on these features. I'm gonna listen to the Carter 6. I'm gonna listen because, especially, also, I mean, you could argue that it's a legendary saga, a legendary series of albums. I mean, the reason why there's an argument is because, to me, I think the classics are probably the first two. The third one is debatable. And then from there, like, 4, you had a couple of joints just like 3. 5, I don't even really remember.
Well, the first...
Well, it had Uproar on it, so that was a good
first two are regarded as classics within the hip hop culture, but Carter 3 was when he was at his commercially.
That was the peak. That was a Millie.
A Lollipop.
That was our senior year, and that was the point where I was in a very rebellious stage in terms of hip hop music. So I didn't give Wayne the fair shake that I probably should have, even as someone who loved the Carter 1 and Carter 2, but because he wasn't rapping exactly like how I wanted him to rap, I was like, I don't got time for this. I don't want to hear this shit. So I kind of wrote Wayne off for some time, and I think what brought me back was that Corey Gunn feature.
6'7"?
That I was like, oh, I forgot. I need to speak. I need to lower my tone when I'm speaking.
Lower your tone when you're talking about Wayne. I'm dead. I mean, listen, man. I'm gonna put the link in the description below, but I put a little playlist together with Weezy features. I haven't updated it. I gotta add the Benny song, but this is some of the ones that I have. My favorite that I can talk about, M's with A$AP Rocky off the sophomore album. That shit was crazy. But look, we got Timeless with him and Big Sean. We got songs with Tyler the Creator or Westside Gunn. Is there one feature that stands out to you? And it might not be within this playlist. It could be within the playlist. Anywhere you want to go. I just want to see where your brain's at. Barry Bonds, obviously, with Ye off of Graduation.
I'm not mad at any of this, but for whatever reason, I don't know, and I don't even know if the performance on the record was more eventful than some of the performances here, but when I think of Wayne's feature one, I brought this up before too, I think of a feature he had on the Currency mixtape.
Oh yeah.
The Carrollton Heist, I forget what it, but it was all produced by Alchemist. The record is called Fat Albert. Yeah. And he just, like, the way he rapped over it, it's just hard drums, Alchemist beat, and he just smoked it. But I think that's what comes to mind initially, but like you, I also think of M's as well, because I remember hearing that, because that album was fire too. That
100%.
Is, well, bro, that's stupid. But that feature came towards the end of the album, right?
It was like middle towards
second to last track.
Yeah, it was like middle towards
the end. You had Mos Def who
album.
also smoked, but he ate on that shit. And I think honestly, Only Live Twice also, but this record on the this feature on the Benny record is one of those ones.
Wait, you said You Only Live Twice off the CLB?
Yes.
Yeah, that shit was fire. That new song with Benny is fire too. But M's, I remember exactly where I was when I heard M's for the first time, and honestly, I hate to sound corny and it's a fucking cliche, but it was kind of a breath of fresh air. Cause like, I don't know, like before listening to that song, the way I would hear Wayne was in a very specific kind of way. The way I listened to him. I'm not saying the way he was sounding the same. I'm just saying the way I heard him was very specifically. But then when I heard him come on the feature on that song, I heard him differently, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, this is Wayne? Like, god damn, he's in shape. Holding his own against A$AP Rocky, who at the time was one of the premier artists at the time.
Yeah. And he was rapping his best on that album.
Facts. And like that kind of like, from that song moving forward, it changed my view of Wayne, and it changed the way I approached Wayne whenever he was dropping a song or he was on a feature on a song. It was just that moment. That's why I have it number one in the playlist.
The one thing I want to see
from Wayne
is a record on the Fall Off with him and Cole.
Ooh.
That's what I want to see.
That might, you know what, man? Now that I'm thinking about it, because it's a thing.
No,
the Cole feature, the Weezy feature is a thing. So like,
no, it's definitely a thing.
So no, but I'm saying if they're smart and they have a song together on the Fall Off, you know how fucking crazy that'll be?
Just make it 2 verses.
That'll be a fucking moment.
24.
Okay, would you want just 2 verses, one from Cole, one from Wayne, or would you want them doing a back and forth kind of thing?
2 verses.
2 verses? Why? Instead of the back and forth.
The back and forth is kind of like a cheat code thing. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear you put your best foot forward in however many bars that is, and you put your best foot forward.
I feel you.
I want it because that's the spirit of competition. I feel like it's more collaborative. It's more, we're all friends when it's back to back. Nah, you two doing this shit to people's records the way you've been doing, disrespecting people. No, you guys gotta face up. You guys are the 2 toughest kids in the high school, 2 toughest kids in the neighborhood. Now you fight. Who's the toughest?
I feel you.
You know what I mean?
Nah, that was a really good way of putting it. I like that. That'll be legendary if it happens. Salute Wayne, a legend in the game. Keep going, keep doing your thing, and we're gonna keep looking forward to it. So now what I want to do, since we're talking hip hop in 2023, it's only right that we talk about some projects from 2023 that stood out to us. And I'll start it off. I want to talk about the latest album from Westside Gunn, and then You Pray For Me. Now, first and foremost, Westside, please stop saying that this is your last album. I hate when rappers do that.
No, he's done with that. He's done with that.
He said it for this album, though.
No, but he stopped. He reneged on that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank God. Okay, so as far as a Westside Gunn Griselda project, you kind of know what you're getting as far as the sound of it. Of course, it's gonna be boom bap, right? But what Westside Gunn does, that he does get respect for, but we should shine a little bit more of a light on, is the cohesiveness of the project and adding other people to the project. And like I just said, being cohesive, not sounding out of pocket, not sounding out of place. Now, one of the standouts of the album, the one with Rome Streets, number 20, the Revenge of Flip's Leg. Of course, this is a Westside Gunn album, but as of late, Rome Streets has been fucking putting his fucking foot in anything he touches. I sent this to you. And I think your response was like, I don't know. You said some shit that only you would say. It was like, expect it or something.
It was just...
Yo, when I heard this, I was like, God, Rome Streets, bro. Because when you think of Griselda, obviously you think about Benny, Westside, and you think of Conway.
Yeah.
But there's so many other people that are within the Griselda camp. You got Rome Streets. You got Stove God. You got Boldy James. You got Armani Caesar, who's a fucking killer in their own right. And man, that was one of the standouts of the song. And I just want to hear some of your thoughts about the album, or Westside, whatever, wherever you want to go.
So, and this could have really been a part in and of itself because it's such a dynamic album. The feedback, the fact that he knew the type of feedback he was going to get. But I'll start off here because we were just talking about the Drake and Kanye thing and how Kanye produces albums. People aren't going to see this yet. Maybe in hindsight, Westside Gunn is a direct lineage and the closest thing to a Kanye West I think we have in this time in terms of catalog and how he places people. This album is decorated with people you would never think to hear on a fucking Griselda album. I mean, I like the Denzel Curry record, but you have
STG?
Yeah, STG. Yeah,
like that?
He's on there are different placements on this album that you don't expect it. He's doing like trap shit on here. He's got Take Keith beats, but somehow he managed to fit it all kind of where, in my opinion, just because I can appreciate Westside Gunn and his ear for music, I think that this is one of his better albums. It's not his best, but I know a lot of the Griselda traditionalists were like, "What are you doing with this? What are you with the trap beats with all the?" I like it. I like it because it furthers the Griselda brand.
Right.
And I saw it coming. I knew that this was, you hear Conway getting on, more trap-friendly, BPMs. Benny, the same thing.
Yeah.
So I like the balance of this album. Obviously it has its standouts, and me, once again, going back to the shit that I like, it will always, I'll always lean more towards the Revenge of the Flip's Leg or the record with Boldy on here. But to be even Mama's Prime Time with the JID, But my favorite record, and the record I go back to the most, is Take Keith produced number 3, Costas.
Oh yeah.
That shit is fucking ridiculous. I think
That's
Conway just loses his mind there. This is one of my favorite albums of the year in terms of hip hop. I don't think that there's an album that I've gone back to more than this one.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah,
really?
It wasn't it's not saying too much because in my opinion, it wasn't a great year in hip hop. It just wasn't. I'm bored of a lot of shit at this point.
Yeah.
But I fuck with this.
Okay.
Love the AA Rashad intros.
Talk to me about a project that stood out to you, or that was one of your favorites. So you just mentioned something right now. You were talking about just like the year in hip hop and how it was kind of dark. My question to you is, do you think in your eyes hip hop it was kind of dark because we're just at an older place and it's hard for us to keep in touch with what's going on in hip hop right now? Or do you think hip hop is in a dark place and the quality of music that's coming out is just not great?
The latter.
You think it's the latter?
Because I think that creativity is at an all-time low. You see it because when guys who are creative or put time into their albums come out, like a West Side Gun, you hear it, you feel it, like shit is different, he's attacking things from a different angle. Now because of things like streaming and, you know, the numbers game, creativity takes a back seat to just relevance and fame. That's really just where we're at. Like, and I mean, I feel like that could be said for, you know, a good part of the last 20 years. However, it just seems like we're lacking in artists that want to push the culture forward at this point.
And the reason why I asked you that question is because if I ask you to tell me who's, besides Drake, I guess, who's the hottest in the game right now, do you think you can tell me?
Probably not.
Okay, hold on. Stay right there. So, and me too, I can't tell you who's the hottest in the game right now besides Drake. Because I feel like our ears are just not in the streets, if you will.
Yeah.
Our ears are not just going to what's going on right now because we're just a little bit older. So this is what I'm saying is that since our ears are not for what's going on right now, how can we know what's hot in hip hop?
There's two caveats there.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say though?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, sorry,
but here's the issue. If you're hot enough, us just as hip hop lovers and listeners, whether we like it or not, it makes its way to us. It does. If you're the hottest, it makes its way to us. That's why Drake is still on top because there's no one surpassing it. There's people who buzz in the underground, they fall off just as quick as they come. But so the other caveat, other than, you know, making it to us, the amount of music that comes out now, it's impossible for us to keep up with everything. And that kind of lends itself to the first point in the sense that it'll rise above if it is that crazy, if it is that hot. There's shit that may be culturally relevant to people in their, you know, high school to their early 20s, but you're not really smoking it like that if it's not making it to us.
Okay, so you're saying that like it doesn't matter that our ears are not to the streets. Is that if it's hot, it'll reach us.
My point is that there's 40-year-olds when Drake came out that grew up on only Built for Cuban Links that knew Drake was here. Whether they hated on him or whether they didn't, they knew Drake was here. They knew Cole was here because they were making that type of noise because they were the next generation.
So nobody right now is making that kind of noise?
No, there's nobody.
Okay.
There's people, I think there's an undercurrent of whatever the hell's going on, but nobody that... We might not even see another true star in hip-hop ever again, just because of the way music is. Unless we revert back to a point where, like, it gets so oversaturated that people intentionally put out less music or whatever, I don't know. But at the rate we're going, we'll never see another Drake, another Jay, another Nas, another Ye, these guys, another Wayne, who are clearly the head of the generation. Now it's kind of all mashed into a gumbo. It's like...
So you think the Drake class is like the last class of like those superstars or stars that we're gonna have?
Because think about it, people thought, oh, Chance the Rapper's the next one. What's Chance the Rapper? Lil Baby's next. Where's Lil Baby? Like, where are these people that everyone thought that was up next? They get sucked into the abyss. They just kind of they're still around. They're still culturally relevant, but no one's rising above that point. I just think the way the game's structured now, I don't know if we're ever going to see another guy. I don't think we're ever going to see another Drake. But Drake is an anomaly in and of himself for 15 years to be. Yeah. But just another guy who's clearly the guy in hip hop.
I get what you're saying.
Why is Drake still there? 15. Nobody came. Fucking crazy. But that's just where I'm at.
No, that's an interesting conversation about like where hip hop is going, and we're going to talk about that a little bit coming up. But as far as one of your favorites for the year, we're talking about Magic 3. And before Mike breaks it down, go check out the episode where we give an entire breakdown of the album and what we like about it. But just to touch base on this album, what did you like about the album? You know, wherever you want to go.
I mean, just because I know a lot of the people who are going to listen to this episode, listen to that episode, I'm not going to talk their ears off, but it's Nas returning to form over peak production and showing that, speaking to the point of Lil Wayne, you have your Wayne feature on there, smoke shit, but Nas has been doing this for God knows how long, and within the last fucking 3 years, he's just been on an uncontested run. I love it. I mean,
and it may be a run that we never see again from a
veteran,
from a veteran, from a fucking legacy act, from the standpoint of like, how old is Nas? 50 something?
He just turned 50 this year.
There you go. So like, at 50 years old, not to drop one album and be relevant, to drop a series of albums.
Yeah.
And be relevant and show everybody that you're still, when you put your mind to it, you can still be one of, if not the guy in hip hop.
Yeah.
He's showing everybody how to age gracefully.
Grammy nominated.
Grammy winner as well.
Grammy winner last year.
KD1.
Grammy nominated.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, another album though. I can't see, and for some reason it always slips my mind. That Killer Mike album.
You took mine,
that Michael album.
You took mine, bro.
That's probably the best hip hop album of the year.
Yeah. No,
I'm
not mad at you, bro.
Fucking incredible, man.
That was gonna be my next album. Yeah, man, this album. I remember he was on a media run, and he was talking about like what he had to do in order to put this album out. So he put this album out independently. He put this album out like with his own money. Yep. And it took. He was saying how he took years because he wanted to get it right. He wanted to get the sound right.
He got it right.
He got it fucking right, man.
And I wasn't the biggest Run the Jewels guy.
Me neither.
I always knew because of his appearances on Outkast Records, he could rap. I wasn't necessarily sure of the extent of his artistry, but this is like, incredible shit right here. And I think that because this is that's what triggered the thought, another Grammy nominee. I think that this is the album that deserves that Grammy.
This one got nominated?
Yep.
What do you think? I
think it deserves it.
Who do you think is gonna win, and who do you think should win?
I think Killer Mike is gonna win, and he should win.
So back to back for you.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think he's going to. I think that the Travis album, it's one of those things like we see a lot. It comes, and then it goes, and you never really think about it again.
The Travis album, and I'm sorry, we're not trying to just skip over Killer Mike. We're gonna talk about the Travis album next. But as far as this album, this was an incredible cohesive body of work. And my favorite song of this album is Spaceship Views with Currency, Cash Page, and 2 Chainz.
We agree there.
That song is fucking ridiculous. But he has a feature from Andre 3 Stacks, featuring Future, Scientists and Engineers. That song is crazy. This album, if all you know about Killer Mike is Run the Jewels, we highly recommend you to listen to this album because it's not what you're going to be expecting going into this album.
Absolutely.
So that was definitely one of the highlights of this year. And another album that came out this year, you were talking about Utopia by Travis Scott. So this album is interesting because, especially when Astroworld came out, that was like 2018, I want to say. It was a fucking moment.
Big time.
It was a fucking moment. Travis was ruling the world.
It lasted.
It did last. And then the Astroworld Festival happened, and he had to take a step back. Because unfortunately, some people did lose their lives. And I felt like that event affected this album because that event happened maybe in 2021. Yeah. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was post-pandemic.
Post-pandemic. So let's say it was 2021. This album just came out sometime this year, and there was a big gap in between. Travis was always around, but he wasn't really putting out music. But he was still around. You can still hear him. You can still feel him. He was doing production with other songs. But this album is so interesting because leading up to this album, people were anticipating it. Travis also made announcements that he was going to do this legit world tour, doing concerts from Rome, Italy, from doing Greece and shit. Egypt. The initial one was Egypt, but it got canceled because he was doing the pyramids. And then after that, he didn't do the Egypt one. He did one Rome, Italy. That shit was crazy. But just the lasting impact of the album, it just wasn't there. And it's interesting because when I talk about this album with my friends, it's just like, it's kind of like what you just said. It just kind of came and went. And it was like, it's not that Travis doesn't have that gravity anymore, because he still has that, but there's something that just didn't click with this album, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
You know what I think? I think it was a good album, like it had an impact when it came out, because it's good music, but it's nothing that broke any ground. And that's where you get the albums that you kind of talk about for longer than... And we're living in a time where it's the shortest expiration date in the history of music. Something comes out, you forget it came out within the next week if it's not something of note.
The next day,
That's really where we're at.
Talking about the attention span.
To the attention span, just overall, once again, the volume of music that's coming out.
It's crazy, bro.
So, even if you're one of the biggest artists in the game, if you come out with an album...
Which he is.
Which he... Absolutely. Yeah. If you come out with an album that is just kind of cool... Okay, we bump, like, you get your records here and there. It kind of dies out just that quick. I think that there's nothing that, like... If it's not better than Astroworld, it's just going to die like everything else that comes out.
What do you think is Travis's best album? Mine is Astroworld.
I'd probably say Astroworld. But the one that came...
Before that
was...
Birds in the Trap.
That album was fucking... He has a good catalog.
He has an amazing catalog.
He has... What was the first... Rodeo, and then you go... He has a really good catalog of this is why he is who he is today. But I would have to say, I think, like... You probably have a lot of contrarians who say, actually, no, but I would have to say the safe bet is Astroworld is his best album.
So...
Because you get everything.
My shout out Jeff and Rainer again. They think Birds in the Trap is Travis's best album, which I'm not mad at.
I'm not mad at that either.
But my reason as to why Astroworld was his best album, because that's the moment where he went commercial, but he was still able to maintain his sound. It's not like he completely sold out, but even going commercial and maintaining his own sound, he was able to cultivate this fucking moment. That's where the Astroworld Festival began.
Right.
And it was just, it was a moment, bro. Like, everywhere you turned, it was something about Travis Scott. Whether it was the music, whether it was the merch. That was around the time we did the McDonald's merch.
Yeah.
It was the festival. Like, it was just always Travis Scott. And it was done with such a level of taste that gained my respect. But again, that unfortunate tragedy happened, and he had to take a break, which hurt him. And I think it's what happened to this album. I think that gap kind of hurt him. But I also wanted to come back to, this album had a moment. Meltdown. I'm talking about specifically.
Oh yeah, Meltdown.
Meltdown with Drake. That shit was
your boy Pharrell and Pusha.
Yeah, going at Pharrell and Pusha, and that was.
Just Pharrell.
I mean, he's associated with Pusha.
Leave that alone.
Separate the two. Compartmentalize. That's a fact. Compartmentalize. Yeah, I mean, I think the moment from this album is Meltdown.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. The moment of this album, like that kind of even hit the casual listener, is definitely Meltdown. Fiend had a run too.
Fiend had a run.
You kind of saw that everywhere. I mean, man, when you look at the track list, it's like it's a good album. The thing is like, to your point about Astroworld, the reason why Astroworld was so special is because he did balance commercialism, and he was at like the peak or the climax of what he'd been developing over all these years. Like, that's the maximum cultivation of his sound, of what he can do in that. I don't think that that's where it stops for him. But I think as far as what he'd been developing up to that point, sound and just overall artistically, that's the peak of it. Now he has to evolve from that. Here you don't get the evolution, you get more of a continuation, so you kind of you kind of this wasn't better than Astroworld. It's not a bad album, but if it's not better than Astroworld and it's kind of in the same vein, it's gonna.
So what does that look like for Travis? Like, you want him. We would like to see a growth. We would like to see. Like, what does that even look like for him?
It's tough to say.
It's
tough to say because
the kind of music he came out with, which is still his sound, was so different. And was such a left turn from what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, now you're gonna make another left turn from already what you were doing. You already took such a drastic turn, now you're gonna make another one.
But you see, the thing is, it's hard to call with guys who are insanely creative, which I do give Travis the credit.
I'm with you there. Yeah.
But look at, and we can never escape the reference, but it's true. Look at a guy like Kanye West. He could have rolled those soul samples into the fucking ground. What did he choose to do? Then he goes 808 and Heartbreak. Then he goes Yeezus. He keeps elevating. So someone like him, that's what he's got to do. He's got to really get in this experimental bit. I think you see pieces of what potentially could be experimental, but it's not all the way there yet. It's not all the way developed. But dudes who are that insanely creative and you have that level of artistry, you have no choice but to make polarizing moves like the Kanye does. If you want to exceed out of just like the hip hop bracket, which I think Travis Scott is bigger than just a hip hop artist. I think he's could potentially be a cultural icon if he's not already there.
Yeah, I agree with you on there.
But you got to keep kind of building off and experimenting. He reached the peak the same way Ye knew he reached the peak of what he was doing with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and he knew at that point I've got to pivot off and do something completely different. That's where you get the Yeezus. So, and that has to happen, or else you're gonna you're gonna be notable because you're that talented. People are gonna talk about it, but you gotta kind of keep evolving at that point.
Another album that I want to get to. This we talked about him a little earlier. This artist, he's known for being a hip hop artist, but the album that he came out with at the beginning of this year is not a hip hop album, but I definitely still want to shout it out. It's Lil Yachty. It's called Let's Start Here. Okay, so for anybody listening to this podcast, first and foremost, thank you very much. But if you haven't heard this album, don't go into this album expecting a hip hop album. This is actually Lil Yachty going completely left field and going into his rock / experimental bag. Like, and I have so much respect for him for doing this. And he dropped it on January 27th, which is literally the beginning of this year. And I feel like when people are going to be coming out with their lists of best projects of 2023, whether if it's hip hop, R&B, or just projects in general, it should be on there. But I feel like since he came out literally in the first month, I feel like people might glance over it. So I just want to make sure that I highlight it because I love when artists, they just like, yo, fuck it. I'm known for this, but I actually like this, and I want my fans to know that about me. And it's like they're risk takers, and they're like, fuck it, yo, I just want to do it. I want to do what I like, and I like what he did.
That's what Travis Scott has to do.
No, yeah, that's literally what you're saying, yeah. And Yachty's an interesting figure in hip hop, man, because he's one of those people that came out after the class of the Drake, Cole,
he's the SoundCloud. He's that same 21 Savage, that same.
He's in the SoundCloud era. He's in the SoundCloud era of those rappers. But Yachty is interesting because Yachty, you can tell that he takes this shit very serious. Like, to come out with a project like this, he knows the talk that he's getting about him. He knows the narrative about him. That he's like, there was a narrative about him that he's not really a good rapper, that he can't put out good projects. And he put out multiple projects. He did the Michigan album where he stuck to one type of hip hop sound. He immersed himself into that world, and he tried to deliver a project showing his rapping capabilities. And with this album, he just wants to show his artistic growth, and he just wants to show that he's not just like a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And I just love when people do that, man.
Yeah. And when they do it well, it's really groundbreaking.
Yeah, this album was in heavy rotation for the first few months of 2023. So that's definitely one album that I want to shout out Yachty.
Yeah, and I have to go back to the statement because you asked me if I fucked with this music and it reminded me of this album because I had forgotten about this album. But this was a very good project. I respected his level of artistry, and I do, see that he is trying to prove because he cares. Now I could rap. You see on the Secret Recipe, unfortunately, he went toe to toe with someone who.
He didn't do bad though.
No, he didn't do bad. He was just next to someone who he probably.
Certified killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another project that dropped in 2023 that we're both fans of, an affiliate of Griselda Records, We're talking about Conway the Machine, of course. Won't He Do It? Mike, you were telling me that this is one of your favorites of the year. So if you want to just talk about it.
So I think you get someone, Conway. I think that he is one of the guys on Griselda who kind of has gone out on the ledge and has experimented with different sounds, different, obviously Benny is Benny, Westside Gunn is the artist, but with Conway, you see him kind of just. This album is a good balance of all of his kind of styles, where you have the prototypical towards the bottom of the album. You have his prototypical Griselda shit, Brick Bear, Kill Judas, Fire, the Brooklyn Chop House, no drums on it.
Fab
lost his fucking noodle there.
Fab, we need more fucking. Yeah. We need more verses like that, boy.
It's funny you said that because he fucking went crazy. My favorite record on here, though, is the Kanye record. I just like the element of gospel there. He only puts one verse on it, and he kind of just.
I like how the last track has someone that we don't think he would fucking.
That's what I mean. And he's kind of, and he did that even with the the JID record. Even though, JID's a spitter, and we know that. You don't expect to see Conway and JID, but he did that on the last. I think it was the last album. Unfortunately, with hip hop, I look for a couple of artists. Like I said, there's very few artists that I look forward to hearing from because.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I look for particular artists. I don't. If it comes across my radar, like a brand new artist, a new sound, if it comes across my radar and I like it, I'll try to keep up with it. Right. But I'm not actively trying to do that. I just try and keep up with the artists that I like, that I've been listening to for a while. That's where we're at.
Yeah. But if someone who I know where their ears at sends me something, I'll listen. Like if you find some shit and you send it to me, I'm gonna listen. Because alright, this is a referral. Like this I know D's fucking ear for music, I'm gonna check this out. But to your point, if I don't have that, I'm probably not gonna go out of my way for it. So
alright.
Hopefully 2024 is a better year for hip hop. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully, man.